Welcome to Lone Star Flight Museum. I am your host, Teelia Lowery. I am here with Mr. Chauncey Spencer II. So tell us, your father used to be, well, he was a Tuskegee Airman, right?
Yes, he was.
Okay, tell us what brought you here to Houston, Texas, to Lone Star Flight Museum.
So we are doing a cross-country tour, and it's a pilot program, and it's creating a brand for African Americans in aviation traveling museum. It's a 16-year dream that I've put together, and it's come to reality. I got people to support me through donations to believe in my dream. And we took off on August the 17th from Palm Springs Air Museum in Palm Springs, California. And we were to go and retrace the trail that African Americans created aviation from the ground floor up into include the Tuskegee Airmen.
Wow, that's very monumental.
Thank you.
So in your efforts of going to these different places, what do you hope to obtain as far as from touching the lives of the youth here?
I want to excite the youth, first of all, not so much for aviation, but to concentrate on the legacy of where they come from.
Yeah.
Our strength is where we come from. We are a very proud people. Of all Americans, African Americans are the most forgiving people of any race of people. We are the most abused and misused race of people, but we never give up the patriotic feeling of America.
How was your upbringing, being a child of a historical figure?
Wow, it's deep. I was like any other child. So I was raised in San Bernardino, California until I was 16. I was in busing when the busing first came out after the Civil Rights Bill in 1964. And so my father was offered a position to start a pilot program, which we call HUD, Housing Urban Redevelopment, and it was in the center of Detroit. So my father at that time was the police commissioner in San Bernardino. He got rid of the John Birch Society and integrated the police department. Then he became president of the NAACP for the chapter in San Bernardino. So he felt that his work was done there, and the next job was in Detroit, Michigan. So we moved to Detroit, Michigan in 1970. I finished high school, and at the same time I was going to high school, I started my college. So when I was in 11th grade, I went to an engineering program through Chevrolet Engineering, and I graduated with a degree 2 years after I graduated from high school. So I didn't really know what my field would be. I thought it would be the automotive field because I like to drag race and build motorcycles, and so that's what I did. I never knew that I would be a historian. And then from studying and knowing from my grandmother, Ann Spencer, is a poet of the Harlem Renaissance. So my grandmother's home in Lynchburg, Virginia in 1917 was visited by James Weldon Johnson and W.E.B. Du Bois, where they encouraged her to create the first chapter of the NAACP in the state of Virginia. So now knowing all of this, knowing that I've gone through discrimination, racism within my own community and other communities, from being a half-breed, a white boy, to a nigger, that, it was all about character and it really wasn't about color. Right. And so I learned that early in the game. And Detroit woke me up. Detroit showed me that I couldn't live the sheltered life that I lived in San Bernardino. I had to live a real life. Yeah. So I call myself a PhD in street. So I got my PhD in street, and I know how to survive. And after my father passed away in 2002, I saw that his name was being left out. And then I found that other African Americans in aviation weren't being talked about. Not to put fingers on the Tuskegee Airmen, but I felt that it was their job, that when you're in a position, in a platform, you should speak for those who gave you the opportunity to get in that position. And seeing that they did not do that, I felt it was my job to stop complaining and do it myself. And so the 16 years later, I'm here talking to you in Houston, Texas.
Yes, I love it. And we welcome you. We welcome all the knowledge that you have here to share with the youth, to empower us, to inspire young people to fly airplanes.
Absolutely.
That's right. So tell us, what are some obstacles or hurdles that you've encountered during your journey, your 16-year journey?
Well, I've dealt with job discrimination, fighting other people's battles, to find that I was fighting somebody's battle that really didn't care. My mother used to always say, "Chauncey, why are you fighting somebody else's battle? They don't care." And I used to always say, "Mom," I said, "but it's my job." I said, "It's in my DNA." I said, "You and Daddy got broke fighting for somebody else, paying somebody else's lawyer bills. And so you're the fault for what I do." Right. And my mother passed away. I hope I can hold myself together. So my mother passed away August the 25th. And she was 98 years old. Wow. So anyway, I'm still moving on. And
press pause.
because I always believe that life is half full, or the glass is half full. And optimistically, that's how I live my life. Things that are impossible, I make possible. And so instead of having students come to school, which they can't, I bring the school to the students. And so I've touched on 18 states, 25 major cities in 25 days with a total of 7,000 miles. In Houston, Texas, ironically, I had no idea that I was coming to this museum. Leo Sherman, who's a commercial pilot with United, who's a friend of mine, we're doing a film together. He said, Chauncey, he said, listen, he said, there's a great museum down there called Lone Star Flight Museum. Have you ever been there? I said, no. He said, man, it's a $40 million museum. He said, listen, he said, let me get you in touch with one of the guys down there who happens to be in charge of engineering aerospace at Texas Southern. And so he called me, yeah, Dr. Fontaine. And so he called me, and he was excited to have me. And I was more excited to have an opportunity, to be honest with you. And so I ended from there to Lieutenant General Owens, who's the CEO here. And when he was talking to me, it was funny because he was talking to me, I was getting dressed and the phone rang and it had Hawaii on it. I said, wow, that's the closest I'm going to get to Hawaii. So his phone number goes to Hawaii. And I said, man, I got to tell you a joke before you start talking. I said, listen, I said, this is the cheapest way I got to Hawaii. And he laughed. He said, well, no, I'm in Texas. And I said, well, Texas is big. I know it's that big. It stretches out to Hawaii. And so he was like, oh, you're a real joker. And so that's how we started talking. And he said, listen, I want to get some people to meet you. And I want you to get exposure to what we do in Texas. I said, I would greatly appreciate it. So I get a chance to meet you. Because if all that wouldn't have happened, everything happens for a reason. And at the end of the day, it's all positive.
Yes, it does.
So that's what.
What's your favorite quote? A quote that you live by. It can be a quote. It can be, just a saying that you remember your father used to say to you when you were young.
I'm going to say it, so I have to cheat. So this is my father's quote. It says, I'm no paragon of virtue. I live like other men, but I know what is evil and what is illegal and what is unacceptable for good human relations. And I think America needs to pay attention to that. From our leadership, it's poor human relations. And it's creating a conflict of cancer that's constantly spreading and exciting the negative of America. We don't need that. We need to be together. We have a germ that's taken over the whole world, not just the United States. And that alone, when you create doubt in people's minds and people are dying, what kind of doubt do they need to know? People are dying. This is for real. And then you create other people that have an opportunity, black and white. They want to loot. They want to kill. And then that creates the subject matter that the germ continues to grow. And we're not concentrating on the human part of what we need to defend ourselves. These physical parts and these personalities, they're going to always be here. We're going to have a difference. I don't like his red shirt. You don't like my blue shirt. But that we can live with. But when people die and we can't come back and create a debate, that's a problem.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chauncey, for having me.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And I just would like to just say this.
Yes.
Never stop educating yourself. And everyone has a story, okay? You reach down into yourself and you figure out how you're going to tell your story. Mr. Chauncey here, he's telling his father's story and a little bit of his story, and he's inspiring others to do the same. So thank you, Mr. Chauncey.
You're very welcome.